Welcome back from your dismissal. Curious if you have a cold open by any chance?
Cold open. Let me think. No, I got nothing.
Happy Monday and welcome into the PHNX Sun Devils show, coming to you live from Studio K, presented by Circle K. Join Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. I am Anthony Totri, joined as always by the man who has returned from his one-game suspension / dismissal.
For what? What was I suspended for?
Being the reason that Arizona State basketball loses.
No, that's
why.
me.
That's why.
That's me. Hand up.
That's Erik Ruby. We got Captain Redbeard behind the Mac, making all of the magic happen. Emily Clint, Mr. Ruby himself in the chat, guys. Say what's up. Go Devils. Make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and drop a juicy 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. Hope everybody had a phenomenal weekend, made better by Arizona State's 12-point victory over Kansas State last night. We're going to get Rubus's thoughts on that, on the BJ Freeman situation. We've also got some interesting data from ESPN about Kenny Dillingham's Sun Devils and how they're doing something that, I don't know, about 134 other teams in college football aren't doing heading into 2025. Grab yourself a Circle K snack, a drink, and let's get into it, Ruby. Any comments on your one-game suspension? On your personal one-game suspension?
I need to come back focused and ready to help the team. And if I miss another show this week, I got kidnapped. So
okay, we're just putting that out there now.
Put that out there.
Okay, who kidnapped you?
I think we all know who suspect numero uno would be.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see what transpires throughout the rest of the week. Ben in the chat saying best basketball team in the nation.
We're all saying it.
I mean, that's what everybody is thinking. I do want to get your thoughts on BJ Freeman in that game yesterday. Before that, we did get a statement from Arizona State in regards to the BJ Freeman situation, not calling it a dismissal, but saying that he is no longer with the team because of conduct detrimental to Arizona State.
You hate to see it. Obviously, you got to look at BJ Freeman first and look at a guy who is supposed to be a leader on this team.
Yeah.
Is one of the older players on this team, is a senior, was getting his first real chance to play college basketball on a high level, and individually was having a good season. But obviously, team-wise, was not where you wanted to be. BJ Freeman on a team also surrounded by some younger talent like Josan Sand and Amir Ali and Jayden Quaintance, and you just got to shake your head and be extremely disappointed in the fact that somebody who's been in college basketball for that long, who wasn't suffering really individually when it came to production, was going to act in a sense, in a manner that got him, separated from the team. And whether it's a dismissal or not a dismissal, at the end of the day, he's no longer no longer there. And I find it quite interesting how free Arizona State played against Kansas State. I don't want to just chalk it up to that.
Yeah,
because
and that would be a lazy.
It would be lazy, but I think it would also it would be you just getting comfy.
Yeah, just got to get comfy talking hoops for a little bit before we dive into football.
Yeah, I don't think that you can blame it all on BJ Freeman, but if it really was that bad, like we've all had jobs, classes, whether you worked in like a group or something, where there was just like one person who just ruined the vibe.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know exactly what happened with BJ Freeman, but you got to do a lot to get, to be on a roster and then to no longer be on a roster.
A roster that already is a limited rotation.
Right. A roster that very clearly could use you. You have an argument to be the best current player on the roster. But Am I wrong?
Most consistent scorer is what I would say, but yeah.
I would agree that I would say that there are a couple other players that are also in that argument, but I think you can comfortably put him in there. So when you take that guy out of the equation, and the response is from a team level, from a team standpoint, you are playing crisper, cleaner, better basketball, something that we have been begging you as a team to do
pleading
for the entire season. Again, it's not all on you, but it is an interesting development. And with Arizona State's schedule for the rest of the season being quite difficult, I mean, we're talking BYU, Utah, Arizona, Texas Tech, right? There's 3 ranked teams in there, one of the top 10 in Tech. If the team continues to play better, you do have to wonder what exactly was going on there. But at the end of the day, Kansas State is not exactly a team that I think Arizona State didn't have a chance to beat with BJ Freeman or how they were playing before. I don't know if you brought this up on the yesterday's postgame show, but I know we talked about it on the show that Kansas State was really bad and then like the best team in the country when they played ASU.
Literally.
And then really bad again. And so now they're in the really bad stretch. So I'm not just going to get back on to Arizona State and saying that they fixed their problems without BJ Freeman. But I'm hoping that from a personal standpoint, whatever was going on with that team, it just gets a little bit easier for them for these last 4 games, and they could try to end this season on somewhat of a positive note.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's funny we're having this conversation right as a comment pops up under one of our PHNX Sun Devils posts. So there was a comment from a fan that says, first Bagley, then Jose Perez, now Freeman. Hurley loses his teams every year, but beyond the transfer portal, he loses their trust, confidence, and everything boils over. There is a comment underneath that from former Arizona State basketball player Jose Perez, ironically enough, literally 3 minutes ago, where he says, quote, "Not in that category, trust me. To me, Coach Hurley is the best coach you can play for, and he never lost my trust. We still talk on a consistent basis. Can't comment for the other guys." Very interesting that the timing, obviously,
very, especially interesting that it's from Jose Perez. Like, I'm really glad that you and Bobby's relationship.
He follows the show.
I'm glad that you and Bobby's relationship is in a better place.
And I think in Jose's situation is much different than it was for Bagley.
I get so triggered when I hear that name.
I know. It was so different. And is different than the BJ Freeman situation and the Marcus Bagley situation, because I feel like for Jose Perez, it was more so of like, this guy is already an older basketball player.
It was a life decision.
It was. And it was a decision that in reality probably made the most financial sense for Jose Perez.
Sure.
Obviously, outside looking in, it is people had, they felt a type of way about it because he left the team right before the Pac-12
in the
tournament.
middle of the season.
Yeah. So I understand maybe some frustration on that end. But again, I think if you're an Arizona State fan, I think the only thing that you can really do is push forward for the rest of the season. And realistically, there's a lot of questions that remain with what the rest of Arizona State's basketball season kind of holds. Michelle Gardner, who traveled to that game where Arizona State beat Kansas State, she reported that Jayden Quaintance left the arena in crutches last night, which would certainly be pretty devastating for Arizona State. You hope that it's nothing too serious, that it's just precautionary. Looked like he tweaked either his ankle or his knee toward the end of that game. And if he is going to miss any sort of time with Arizona State's last 4 regular season games, then we're talking about Arizona State only realistically being with about a 6-man rotation.
Yeah.
Which you'd have to switch things up dramatically. The team would be much smaller. The lineup
Sean
would be much
Phillips
smaller.
would be playing nearly 40 minutes a game.
He would be, because he's your only true big.
Which would be awesome, because we get to see more post fadeaways.
He had a game.
I know, he had a good game.
He had a good game.
He had a 10 points, 11 rebound game. That's exactly what you need out of him against Kansas State. I just find it so funny, the midi post up fadeaway.
I know.
It's just
a little bit of a heat check, man. A little bit of heat check.
But with Quaintance, it would be really disappointing if this is a longer term injury, because in only 26 minutes, I know you talked all about it yesterday, but 18.7 rebounds. He had a really, really good pass.
There were a few, and I know he didn't chalk up a ton of assists, but like, I brought it up as it looked completely different with him at the 4 as opposed to him at the 5.
Him hitting 2 threes makes that really different as well. 2 steals and a block, only 3 personal fouls. All of that in 26 minutes.
Yeah.
is good because you need to continue to develop him. I think he could get drafted this year if he was able to.
If he was eligible, yeah.
If he was eligible to. I honestly think that he might be a player that would still go in the lottery.
Yeah.
With just the
raw potential.
Raw potential. And I know he's not a great shooter, and I know 2 for 4 is not what you would expect from him on a nightly basis, but his willingness to take it and his determination to continue to be a little bit better at that. Not that it's going to become something that he builds his game around, but it certainly is an exciting prospect for him. And your focus for the rest of the season, honestly, is keeping him happy because you want him back next year.
You do. You need him back next year if you're Bobby Hurley, because realistically, and I know I've said this a number of times, this is the worst season that Jayden Quaintance should have in his college career by far.
Yeah.
Because of you're just getting integrated into how this all works, the speed of the game, talent around you, etc. I think next season, whether he's at Arizona State or wherever, he is going to be one of the top players in college basketball. I think, like you said, I think he could be a lottery pick. I think he will be a lottery pick when he's eligible.
I think after next season, absolutely.
The raw potential in value that you could get of a guy that is 6'10" with the wingspan that he has, that is slowly starting to develop a jumper, a 3-point shot, a little bit more consistency maybe at the charity stripe, and then you know what you get defensively night in, night out. You've been getting that since he stepped on the court from day one.
Yeah,
so
got that from birth.
He's gonna be he came out the womb just blocking shots at that point. I think anybody that has Jayden Quaintance in the future will be getting a top-tier talent, a top-tier player. So really excited for the remainder of what ASU basketball holds. I think we're going to learn a lot over the next 4 games. 3 of Arizona State's last 4 opponents are inside the latest AP Top 25. With BYU, that matchup on Wednesday, BYU sitting, I believe, at number 25 in the country. Arizona fell back 22. To, I believe, 22.
And then Tech at 10.
Tech at 10. And then you have a Utah team that's got some interesting games as of late, I believe.
3 games over 500 in the Big 12
and they've got some interesting wins as of late. So it's going to be a really interesting ride the rest of the way for ASU hoops. I do want to kick things off to the football side of the conversation, but I feel like naturally we do have to take just a quick break.
Do the sound. Do the sound. Do the sound. Do the sound. Do the sound.
You do the sound. There you go. There you go.
I'm like on 10 shows straight.
It is. Look, if you guys are trying to have even more fun than you had this past weekend watching ASU hoops, we'll mark your calendars, okay? Because NASCAR returns to Phoenix Raceway March 7th through the 9th. The stars of NASCAR battle it out for the Shriners Children's 500 at Phoenix Raceway. There is nothing like witnessing a live NASCAR battle at 200 miles per hour on this 1-mile oval raceway in the foothills of the Estrella Mountains. I love how they call it a battle at 200 miles per hour. It's an electric environment. If you've never actually been over to Phoenix Raceway, it is beautiful. The weather is changing. Grab some tickets for a date, family, friends. It doesn't matter. Again, March 7th through the 9th. It's a best in-class fan experience that the whole family won't forget. Get your tickets now at phoenixraceway.com.
Got a new friend alert over at All Pro Shade Concepts. I'm not talking about these shades that I'm rocking, even though the sun on that logo is rocking some pretty nice shades. We're talking about custom fit awnings for your outdoor experiences. If you're a homeowner and you're trying to spruce up your backyard or your front yard, if you're trying to get a little spicy, you can do it with our friends over at All Pro Shades Concepts. Before I tell you exactly how they can help you, let me show you how they've helped so many others. Voted number 1 by Ranking Arizona for patio shades in 2024, the Better Business Bureau has an A+ rating with over 1,000 5-star reviews on
1,000.
Google. In any industry, in the food industry, in the service industry, in the podcast industry, and in the shade industry, it is hard to get that good of numbers. They can work with your HOA for approvals. They have hundreds of designs and colors to choose from to match any home. Motorized, you can retract with a remote control, all with LED lighting to light up your patio under the awning, and it can keep your patio up to 20 degrees cooler. Licensed, bonded, and insured. Call 623-204-1476 or visit allproshadeconcepts.com now to schedule your free estimate.
Got 30 of y'all in here. We appreciate everybody taking some time out of their Monday afternoon. Make sure you drop a like, hit the subscribe button, and if you haven't already, drop a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast if you're listening on audio. Time to kick it to some football discussion. Obviously, spring football just a couple of weeks away, and we've been pretty big talking about the guys returning for Arizona State, but we've got some numbers as it relates to the rest of the country. If it sounded weird in the past that Arizona State would be returning as many players that they are. It's because it is weird how many players they are returning. Right now, ASU is returning 79% of production for the entire team. This is all according to an ESPN Plus article, which ranks second in the country. Okay. They returned 78% of offensive production. That's good enough for fourth nationally. And they returned 79% of defensive production. That is second in the country. Now, some of you at home are probably wondering, well, they're losing Cam Skattebo. How does that work from a production standpoint? Well, they have the data, they've got the research, and there's a little bit of an equation that kind of goes into it. And it shows that teams year over year are a little bit easier able to replace the running back position in terms of turnover and production there. So there are obviously some questions regardless of statistics and numbers of like, okay, how does Arizona State replace a Cam Skattebo through the air, on the ground, etc. The heart, the things that you can't measure in the locker room, in practices and workouts, whatever. But just from a numbers side of things, Arizona State is returning so much more than realistically the rest of the Big 12.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you're going to miss Cam Skattebo. I think we could just carve out a whole podcast this summer where the only thing that we say is, man, it's going to be hard to replace Cam Skattebo. I miss Cam Skattebo. Oh, where's Cam Skattebo? But whatever it is, right? But you are also looking at a team that's returning its starting quarterback.
Yep.
That is returning its wide receiver 1. That is returning its tight end 1, and is also returning depth in all those positions as well.
4 offensive line starters.
Line starters. You have Jeff Sims coming back as your backup quarterback. You have your running back room that's being filled out. Obviously, Kanye is they're going to be presumably
the projected
at the starter position there. But beyond that, Kyson Brown, Raleek Brown, the other all Jason Brown, all the running backs.
Brown.
That's right, the law firm. Same thing with your wide receiver is Jordyn Tyson, who's going to go in, is probably projected as the number 1 wide receiver in the Big 12 is coming back. And so as impressive and comprehensive as Cam Skattebo is statistically and eye test wise for Arizona State last season and how important he was for them reaching all the success, he was not the only reason.
No, he wasn't.
And all of the other reasons are coming back. So you're missing, like, if one player out of all the players that you have on your roster is equating to about, I'd say Cam Skattebo is probably like 10 to 15% of that offensive production that they're missing.
Based off of this.
Based off of this, like, because you're also missing a couple other players.
Yeah,
as well.
Leaf obviously is a big one too.
And so, but if you're saying one player is 10 to 15%, that is more than fair for analyzing the impact of Cam Skattebo.
Yeah, I'd say if you wanted to throw all 21% of the production for the team that's missing and you want to put on Scat, you could do that.
I think that's understandable too. It's just it's not impossible to overcome. And I think the best part about it is that there is a plan to overcome if we're talking that 22% of offensive production. They have addressed that position of need.
Yeah.
So we don't know if it's going to even come close, but we see a plan.
Yeah. And that's something that I don't think you've had in previous years or some teams in general have, right? There's always the expectation going into the season. If a team doesn't maybe replace a player at a position, you're like, okay, you're naturally going to have somebody step up. And then there are times where that doesn't necessarily happen. A guy doesn't live up to the development expectations that you have year over year. Mm-hmm. And I think for Arizona State to have, a couple options at that position at the nickel spot when you lose, obviously, a guy like Shamari, and then even at center, I think you can experiment a little bit whether or not you move Ben Coleman to center, Sean Naw, any of these guys. So it is going to be interesting to see how you fill out some of those positions that you are losing, but not focusing even on the 21% of production that the team lost and really focusing in on the rest of it, right? 79% as a team, 78% offensively, 79% of defensive production. Well, how does that stack up on, a national average? Right. So heading into 2025 this season, the national average of production returning by team, again, mind you, Arizona State has 79% as a team. The national average is 53.7% for an entire team, 54.3% offensively, and 53.2% from a defensive perspective. Arizona State crushing those numbers with the amount of players and really key players that they're returning offensively. We already know defensively the number of starters, let alone depth guys that are going to be
pretty much
back.
Almost every starter that could come back.
Pretty much
back.
almost every starter that could come back. Even depth pieces at the linebacker spot, at the defensive line positions, and you've got some young guys that I believe in that certainly can make an impact. I think whether that be in the spring, in the fall, regardless. So I'm really, really interested to see how Arizona State can take advantage of this, right? Because I think it's one thing to go into the year and go into spring ball and say, hey, Arizona State is returning all of these pieces. The expectation is that they get better, right? Yeah. That we're talking about an 11-3 team, a Big 12 champion, a Power 4 conference champion, a college football playoff team in Arizona State improving from an 11-3 season.
In theory, yeah. In theory and by my estimation and my confidence, yeah. It's not promised. There have been other things in sports that we feel like are shoo-ins and for sure things, and they don't end up happening. Yeah. And so I want everybody to not like harp on that, but remember that, the path is not always as easy as it seems. But that being said, we look at a roster going into last season that if they retained 53% of their team, I think that would have been a good number, right? I mean, what was the percentage of people that they retained last year? It had to be below 50, right?
I mean, I don't know last year specific. I mean, last year I feel like they retained.
Like 2 years ago into last year.
2 years ago into last year.
That's what I'm saying.
It would be, the roster was gutted.
About, I would say 50% on a high end. Like you basically had an entirely new team. Right, you had some similar pieces, but overall, your makeup fundamentally as a team had completely
different
shifted.
Over the last 2 seasons.
Completely shifted. Not the same, right? So not only are you returning production, you're also returning players that had to figure it out in much tougher circumstances. Yeah. And now you have an entire summer where you're focused, you're comfortable playing next to the players that you're with. You are going to have to implement a couple new ones, but that's going to be a lot easier because you had to implement about 3 to 4 times the amount of new players last season, plus new coaches and whatever as well. So, it is all kind of lining up for this team to where going into next season and expectation wise, listen, the numbers point towards it, the eye test point towards it, the trajectory, like they're going to have some very, very lofty expectations to live up to.
And they're fair expectations at this point.
They're fair, but they're still severe in a good way.
Yeah, I think, again, based off schedule, based off of returning production, I think the minimum that Arizona State fans would expect from this team is a 9-win season. Based off of everything that you saw last season, again, returning production. And I think one wrinkle that falls into the importance of this returning production in the conversation is Kenny Dillingham said when he got here, and he said it year over year, we want to recruit guys that want to be at Arizona State. Right? Yeah. That want to be Sun Devils. And I think now that you've gotten into another offseason where there has been some success, you see that, right? There's a reason that Arizona State is number 2 nationally in this. It's because people want to be at Arizona State, whether they had an 11-win season or not. There are guys that were here a couple years ago that weren't a part of 11-win season that year where they went 3-9 Dilly's first year. And guess what? They're coming back for a third year because they want to be Arizona State Sun Devils. They came back after a 3-9 season because they believe in what Dillingham and this staff can build. Right. Yeah. So I think that's another wrinkle to it. And I think as long as Kenny Dillingham is here, you're going to have a lot of guys want to come back and be Arizona State Sun Devils. And that says a lot, given the fact that there are a lot of college football programs throwing around a lot of money that could have gotten a guy like a Sam Leavitt or a Jordyn Tyson or a Ben Coleman or an Xavion Alford or a Keith Abney to go transfer out, make more money at maybe a program that's had a little bit more consistent success, right? Like an Ohio State or an Oregon, etc. Arizona State is trying to really break into that mold, and this is how you start by bringing back 79% of the production for the entire team. And we gave you the national average in 2025, but it's not just this year that is kind of crazy on the production side for Arizona State. Again, this is per ESPN. Over the past 3 years, 23 of 398 total FBS teams, so roughly 5.8%, have returned at least 78% of their production in a given season. For a 136-team FBS, that's about 7.9 teams per year. This year, Arizona State and Clemson are the only 2 teams that are hitting that threshold of at least 78% of production returning, both of which college football playoff teams, both of which, ironically enough, having lost to Texas in the college football
revenge
playoff.
tour.
It is the revenge tour. And there are some teams, some like juggernauts in college football that fall much further down these rankings than you might expect. Georgia below the 50 mark, right? Oregon below the 50 mark.
And we mentioned this, going into this offseason, right? And when players started to commit to return, this is like college football is not built for these numbers.
No.
Right? Even this, like you mentioned, the successful programs, Oregon, Georgia. I'm wondering what Ohio State's number would be. It doesn't matter how good you are. Everybody's playing the same game.
They are.
And for some reason, and we know the reason, and we're going to play some sound. I just sent it to Kyle. Some sound from Justin Watley that we did an interview about a month ago asking him, like, why choose to come back, right? And like we know the reason why, but I still think that it deserves to be acknowledged that like this coaching staff and their approach to making players feel comfortable and players feeling like they're at home and also still feeling like they have something to accomplish, right? Nobody, I think, is satisfied in that building going into next year that they made the college football playoffs.
They shouldn't be.
No, they absolutely shouldn't be. But you could totally see some programs doing that.
Yeah.
And that's just not what ASU is about, and players gravitate towards that. Like that is something that from a competitor standpoint, if you're trying to buck the trend, you're trying to be different, in college football, and you're doing it at ASU, like you see the path, like you see the vision. And this is what Justin Watley had to say about, why he made the decision to return to ASU for another year.
It was a very easy decision for me, man. You got to know when you're around the right people, There's always things to chase, There are always, I want to get closer to a national championship, so I'm going to go play at a powerhouse or stuff like that. Everything that you want to chase is doable right where I'm at. You know what I'm saying? And you're surrounded with a bunch of great people on and off the field. I think a couple of the incoming guys, early enrollees and transfers, they hit on it a little bit on how we have such a welcoming culture here and it feels like a family. So it's like there's nothing else I really need. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm with a great staff. I get to play football, in great weather in Arizona. And one of our biggest mottos is Coach Dillingham likes to say, have more fun working harder than everybody else in the country. And it's not really just a saying here. Like it really happens every day, coming to the facility. Even today, we had to get there. They sprung a workout on us at 5:55 this morning. Sudden change. It is what it is, but you still go in there and you still have fun because, all your guys are in here with you, so it was a no-brainer for me to come back, man. Playing in this staff and then especially being this close, and we have majority of our guys coming back, man. Who's to say we can't go do it again and go farther this time, So there's not really much out there left that I'm chasing, man. I think I found my home and I love it here.
Two things. One, we looked very different.
At
the beginning of this month. We looked very different like 3 weeks ago. Number two, hitting on home, feeling comfortable, easy decision, and the fact that there's more to accomplish. It is kind of like this perfect recipe all blended together for a revenge tour for a team that was picked last and went to the college football playoffs. Like, do you know how insane that is? That there's still a path to say, okay, we have a chip on our shoulder still.
Yeah.
I'm fired up.
It's
fired
fun,
up.
Man.
I want to watch a game right now.
Can't get here soon enough. Glenn in the chat.
NAU, I'm looking at you.
Dear God, those
food.
Poor lumberjacks. Glenn saying Blue Bloods can reload every year with the 50% number. ASU can build a culture that combats having to recruit big classes every year. Absolutely. And I think that's the mantra, right? Is Kenny Dillingham wants to get guys not only from here in the Valley, but guys that want to be Arizona State Sun Devils and can help develop them into players that you see get drafted come the NFL draft year over year. And I think you're going to see that this year. You're going to make a mark with a Cam Skattebo getting drafted likely in the first 3 rounds, potentially a Shamari and a Leaf falling late into day 3 of the NFL draft. And of course, that's not where ideally you want these guys to go. We think that they can be, contributors on actual NFL rosters, but you do have to have a little bit more of that consistent success. And that's something that Arizona State with Kenny Dillingham, I think, is going to build year over year in this conference. And that I think is what's exciting, is this is just really the tip of the iceberg of what this tenure at Arizona State can be for Kenny Dillingham and company. And that's what I think should excite, the entire fan base. And it's what gets me out of bed in the morning.
Yeah, I know that's why you wake up.
I do. I wake up every morning and I'm just like, what has Kenny done today?
Like, kind of last thing on this, just from this perspective, talking about how Blue Bloods can reload every year. If you can prove to people that if they commit to Arizona State coming out of high school, they not only have a home for a year, but for 3 to 4 years and beyond that. And if you go into this next season and have all these players who could have left commit to return, and you turn them into NFL prospects as well, I would say that's going to go farther than whatever happens with the draft class this year. Because if you're a player in college football, you kind of have to get tired of a certain point of thinking, am I going to be at this school for this year, and this school for a year, and this school for a year, and over here and over there? Or you can commit to Arizona State. Maybe you don't get paid the most amount of money, but you still get paid good, get treated great by the fans. You know that your development's on the right track.
It's a beautiful place.
And now the NFL is watching.
Yeah.
Right? Because they know what kind of talent your program can bring, and you're competing for Big 12 championships. You're hitting every single side of high school recruiting and other players who haven't been able to find their home in college football yet.
Yeah, I agree. And I think in all honesty, we were talking about Scat getting drafted, early spring football. Like, what does that look like, right? 5th round, 6th round. And he's obviously boosted his stock. We're going into 2025 in all reality where there are 2 first-round picks on Arizona State's roster in Sam Leavitt and Jordyn Tyson. So you obviously hope that those guys can continue to elevate their game. But if those guys are indeed drafted in 2026 in the first round, what that does nationally for Arizona State
and
is
for those
going to
positions,
be huge.
Premium positions. If you're a high school quarterback, if you're a transfer quarterback, and you saw what Kenny Dillingham and Arizona State did, and I'm not trying to take away credit from Sam Leavitt, he deserves it, but when you saw what they did with a guy who's transferring in from Michigan State who didn't play, and in 2 seasons is going top 10 in the draft and competing for a Heisman, or a 0-star recruit out of Sacramento State who in 2 seasons is going to be a coveted mid-round draft pick and was in the Heisman conversation, right? Like,
not just in the Heisman conversation,
top 5,
was 5th in Heisman voting,
and probably could have / should have been higher. So at premium positions, Jordyn Tyson coming off of a massive leg injury, right? Whatever happens there's going to be a player this year that is just skyrocketed. You look at Shamari Simmons and the fact that he's even going to probably get an NFL spot, right?
Yeah.
2 years ago, I think if we said that, it would not have been received.
People would have said, who is
well.
Shamari Simmons?
Right. People have been like, what do you mean? Even people who knew who Shamari was, I don't think you were talking NFL.
No, probably
right?
not.
So if you retain, you grow, and you release to success, over time, people will notice that. But that's why this season is so important. If anything, last season was really important. This season might be even more.
I think this season is how you make your mark. Last season, I think there are a lot of people that are casual, maybe college football fans, and they're like, okay, that was a fun year for Arizona State. That was a cool flash in the pan. You remember Cincinnati? You remember when they did that, right? This is the year where you build on that, where you show people that this isn't a flash in the pan, that Arizona State is here, that Kenny Dillingham, the remarks that he made about Arizona State being the next Oregon, being the next Clemson of this era, of this decade, this season is about making that last and making people actually believe it, right? So again, Arizona State ranking 2nd nationally in total team production returning. But the question now is, how does that stack up with the rest of the Big 12? Well, we've got the answer. We've got the rankings for every single Big 12 team on the other side of this break.
God, that was a great tease.
That's what I do.
That was a great tease. Also great, Pure Edibles, founded in Arizona and available in 130 dispensaries statewide. I can tell you about how fantastic that they taste, whether that's their Kicks, which is their version of Starburst, or the watermelon gummies that taste just like watermelon Jolly Ranchers, or the fact that my mouth is starting to fill with saliva because it is literally delicious. But I also really enjoy that they tell you exactly how it's going to make you feel, right? I joke about it, but everybody asks me how chill I am and how I achieve it.
Yeah.
No, I'm a very high-strung person. I'm on edge. I worry about things, and it's why when I saw a tin that said relax, a tin that said unwind, and a tin that said sleep,
said ooh,
I was like, oh, I need those.
I need that.
And not that I don't love the uplift part of Pure Edibles as well, but I knew that for whatever I was trying to feel, they had that for me, and they're easily dosed. You can rip them in half or bite them to make them shareable and figure out exactly what feels right for you. Go find some Pure Edibles products from one of the over 130 dispensaries across Arizona.
I love it. Look, I also love our friends over at Circle K. You've noticed by now we are here in Studio K. Thanks to our friends over at Circle K. Provide us with that lovely Studio K sign alongside this amazing snack cart that we've got. I mentioned it on yesterday's show. If you haven't checked out Circle K's kettle cooked jalapeno chips, they are a hit. Grab them with a sandwich. Grab just a couple bags. Keep those for any time you're watching PHNX Sun Devils. But that's not all when it comes to Circle K. They're trying to help you guys save money every single day with their free membership program. That's why, right? I said free membership program. It's Inner Circle. Super easy to download and get enrolled. Go to the App Store, type in your email address, phone number, all that fun stuff. And literally the next time you pull up to the pump, you can start saving 25 cents per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. Join Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. All right, Rubus, we're going to play a little bit of a game.
I'm excited for this.
A little bit of a game as it relates to the rest of the rankings. And when I say a game, games. I pretty much just mean I want you to guess all of these as we go down. I want Captain Redbeard to guess in the chat as well. If you have not seen that ESPN Plus article, Arizona State ranking second nationally in overall returning team production. So I want your guys' guesses as we go down for who's the second ranked team, who's the third ranked team, and maybe where you can see those other squads line up. Have you guys by chance already seen who the second highest Big 12 team is? Have you, Captain Redbeard?
You're talking football?
Yes. Have you seen it?
No.
No, you haven't seen it.
No.
Okay. So then you guys can absolutely guess at this point. I want the chat to guess. No spoilers, please. Arizona State at number 2. Who is the second team in the Big 12? I got to turn my computer over here. That way you guys don't cheat off me.
Here's the thing. Thoughts go to the top of the Big 12. Iowa State, Kansas State. But for some reason, I got Baylor in my head.
You got Baylor in your head.
Yeah, they had a good season. Yeah, I haven't heard a lot about them. I know Iowa State lost their 2,000-yard wide receivers. I think they lost a couple players in the defensive end as well. Kansas State, I know, was returning. Avery Johnson, I don't know much about the rest of the roster though.
This is where it's going to get a little bit tricky.
I'm gonna go with Baylor.
You're going Baylor. What are you saying?
I think Iowa State's in the top 4, but I'm gonna go with Baylor.
We're doing top 4.
This is number 2.
This is
the
number
2 spot.
The number 2 spot in the Big 12 rankings in terms of returning production.
Oh boy, I'm gonna go with BYU.
Sharon and Will going Texas Tech. Devin Shocker going Iowa State.
It is Texas Tech.
Okay,
Texas Tech is actually the only other Big 12 team to fall inside the top 10 nationally. Texas Tech falling at number 4.
But how? They're losing Conyers.
25 offensively is where they rank in returning production. There isn't a defense in the country that returns more production than Texas Tech. They have the number 1 defense in terms of returning those guys. So it should be an interesting year for Tech. I'm interested to see kind of what they do. Obviously, you lose a guy like Taj Brooks, you lose Jalen Conyers, some other pieces. But defensively, it looks like Texas Tech is really, really set. I know they spent a ton of money in the transfer portal. Actually, I don't think there's a Big 12 team that spent more money in the transfer portal than Texas Tech. So really, really interested to see what the Red Raiders look like this season.
Yeah.
Number 3.
Okay. Can you just do me a favor?
I can do you a favor.
Is Baylor in the top 5?
Baylor is in the top 5.
Baylor at 3.
Baylor at 3. Where do you think they're at? Because you had ASU at 2, and then you had Tech at
Baylor
4.
Offensively,
I just have the team rankings.
Oh yeah. I have Baylor at 3, Iowa State 4.
Baylor at 3, Iowa State at 4. How do you think, so ASU is 2 nationally. Where do you think they fit nationally?
Baylor?
Yeah.
And Tech is in the top 10. Baylor will go around 20th.
20th? What do you think, Captain Redbeard?
I'm going to be honest, I have no clue.
Yeah, I don't either. But
Like,
Iowa State.
Iowa State.
Just
Iowa
throwing
State's
crap at the
higher than
wall.
Baylor.
It is Baylor.
I
Or
knew
not.
it.
Okay.
It is the Baylor Bears. They are at number
It's never been more Baylor.
number
than right
11
now.
nationally,
Really?
just outside the top 10 in returning production.
I had a feeling.
Again, I can go back and kind of for everybody in the diehard Discord, if they want, if there's a specific team that you want me to kind of give you what they're returning offensively, defensively, I can absolutely do that. Just let me know in that diehard Discord if you are a PHNX diehard. So Arizona State at 2 nationally, Tech at 4, Baylor at 11. I'll give you a hint. Team number 4 is number 12. They are right behind Baylor in returning production.
Iowa State's just so tough because you're losing.
I'll give you a hint.
You're
Iowa State
losing-
is not it.
Okay, because you're losing 2,000 yards of offense alone.
You're losing a lot of offense.
Right. They're losing more offense than ASU's losing with Cam Skattebo.
Absolutely.
Like, without a doubt.
Hands down.
I think Kansas State's interesting. Did they lose their running back, though?
Kansas State did lose DJ Giddens.
Kansas lost. A lot of teams lost their running backs. UCF lost
Just
their
about
running back.
everybody in this conference
Texas
lost their
Tech
running
lost
back.
their running back. ASU lost their running, but ASU lost their running back. They're still in the top.
UCF lost their running back.
Yeah.
Kansas lost their running back. Sharon's going Kansas State at 4.
Kansas State is it's between Kansas State and BYU for me, but I think BYU's lost more. I'll go Kansas State.
What are you going, Captain Redbeard?
Yeah, I'll go Kansas State.
Going Kansas
I'm
State.
like Captain Ride my coattails. Come on.
You're both wrong. Cincinnati.
Boo!
Cincinnati
Who
at number
cares?
12 in
Who
terms of
cares about
returning
Cincinnati?
production. I'm interested to see. I think Cincinnati is going to be better this year than they were last year. Especially, I'm unaware if they brought back their quarterback, but their quarterback last year I thought was pretty impressive, especially during the stretch in which Cincinnati beat Arizona State. So watch out for Cincinnati. Watch out for Baylor this year.
I'm watching out Baylor Tech. Those are two teams
That you didn't expect.
Yeah, I mean they had good seasons last year, and they're returning around top 10. And I'm just a big Sawyer Robertson guy.
I know.
Personally.
I know you are. Who's number 5 on this list? 5 of 16 in the Big
I keep
12.
on thinking Kansas State, but it hasn't been Kansas State yet.
You guys are thinking top-heavy teams.
We know it's not Colorado. We know it's not Arizona. We know Iowa State's not in the top 5. We know that. What about Kansas? Do they have a lot of seniors?
Jayden Daniels is back.
Jayden Daniels is back. What about Mello and Kobe?
Mello's to the NFL. Kobe's to the NFL.
Okay.
Devin Neal's to the NFL.
Houston's got a new quarterback.
Houston does have
But
a
they didn't
quarterback.
have a lot of production, so they're still returning a lot of their production. Is there a team we haven't mentioned? Utah?
I'll give you a hint. The team that is sitting at this number 5 spot, number 16 nationally, you already crossed them off. You already said that they weren't there.
Oh, they're not in the top 5?
Yeah, you already said that they're not in the top 5.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
I love this game. I love knowing all the answers and you guys not knowing any of it.
I thought we were doing basketball.
So
I was so thrown off.
So is it Kansas State or Kansas State?
Do you have
or
a
Iowa
guess,
State?
Captain? Captain
Kansas
Coattails?
State.
No.
No, it is Arizona.
Really?
Number 16 in the country in terms of returning production. Yeah.
I guess
They're not
when you
losing
don't
a ton
produce
of
a
players.
lot.
They're not losing.
They're losing
it has nothing to do
they're
with
losing
the
Tetero and
actual
McMillan.
production. But you are returning a good chunk of the players on that roster. So Arizona State 2, Tech 4, Baylor 11, Cincinnati 11, Arizona 16. Who is number 23 nationally?
Oh my God, Kansas 23 is such a Kansas State number.
Kansas State, Captain,
BYU.
Houston.
I was about to say something.
Oh, you had that.
Why is
Man.
this making me mad?
This list sucks.
Number 20. It's a list based off of data, guys.
Still sucks.
It's has nothing to do with opinion here. This is Houston at number 23. This is where you get a drop off. There is about 20 spots that separate Houston from the next Big 12 team nationally in
keep saying
returning
Kansas
production.
State.
It is not Kansas State. Captain?
This is after Houston.
This is after Houston. This team should take a little bit of a jump from what they did last year. At least you'd expect them to.
Kansas?
Nope. Man, you are in love with the state of Kansas.
It's just who I
West
am.
Virginia.
It is Utah. Utah at number 41 nationally in terms of returning production. Obviously, they got themselves a new quarterback that I think is going to be pretty exciting. You're not going to be able to find this list, by the way.
I'm not trying to find the list. I'm just going to look at the teams because sometimes I forget.
Fair. That's fair. So just to recap, Arizona State, number 2, Texas Tech, number 4, Baylor, number 11, Cincinnati, number 12, Arizona, number 16, Houston, number 23, Utah, number 41. Who is sitting at number 45 in the country?
Iowa State.
You're going to Iowa State?
Because they're returning their big-time
Let me know in the chat. Captain Redbeard's got his hat up like he is thinking right now, trying to get this
is
down.
Actually kind of making me mad.
Any guesses, Captain?
Kansas State?
BYU.
Oh,
BYU. I mean, eventually when you guys guess Kansas
Kyle and I
State,
are legitimately frustrated.
it'll be there. But BYU is number 45 in the country in terms of national production returning. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams left. We still got half the Big 12, and we're going to get to that. We're also going to get to see how the Big 12 stacks up on these data points with the rest of the Power 4. Which conference is returning the most production? All that on the other side of our final break.
We got Mr. Numbers over here, Mr. Data.
Mr. Numbies.
Mr. Numbies. Well, let me give you some numbies about Waymo.
Do it.
Waymo was the first, that's the number 1, company to serve a fully autonomous ride with 0 humans behind the wheel in 2015. Waymo also has 40 million, it's another number,
40 million?
miles of real-world driving experience, enough to drive to the moon and back 80 times.
It's a lot of times.
How about some more numbers for you?
More numbers?
150,000 trips per week across San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Phoenix. And if you thought I was out of numbers, you're wrong.
Give me another one.
This one might be a little bit of a stretch, but Waymo's an autonomous ride-hailing service consists of an entirely all-electric Jaguar I-Pace vehicle, providing consistent 0 emission experience for their riders. It's really easy because here's another number. All you have to do is download the Waymo One app and ride today. Whether you're going to spring training, a festival, or just a night out on the town, Waymo is the way to go. Oh, that's
wow. It's Waymo fun.
Write that down,
there
Waymo.
You go. There you go. Look, I got a number for you. It's $350,000.
I got a sound for you.
Do it. Get ready to rev your engines for the $350,000 Lamborghini Lux giveaway. Look, here's how you can win. So every Friday in February, you guys are going to have a chance to win cash, free bonus play, or you can qualify for that grand finale drawing. You can join them every Friday at 7 p.m. for exciting drawings, and you could join them for the grand finale on Saturday, March 1st at Wild Horse Pass, where one lucky winner is going to drive away in a Lamborghini. I hope you all play, but selfishly, I hope I am the one driving away in the Lamborghini, and I'll double down here. If I win, any diehard that wants to go for a ride, I got you covered, okay? Don't miss your chance. This is your big opportunity to experience the thrill of luxury and speed. Visit every Friday for your chance to win big. And a big reminder, you do you at Gila River Resorts Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details. You ready to go back to
I'm kind of
your guessing game here?
Yeah.
Okay, so just BYU was the last one we left off on at number 45 in the country. This next team is number 49 in the country, a middle-of-the-pack team in the Big 12.
It's got to be Kansas State.
Captain?
There's no other choice.
UCF.
TCU.
God damn it.
TCU at number 49 in the country.
Failed this class.
I hope you know who I'm guessing next.
You did fail this
I'm
class.
doubling down.
I'll tell you right now, at number 55 in the country, it is not Kansas State.
Okay, it's got to be Kansas State. Okay. So you just said it was UCF? No,
TCU was number 49. Yeah.
Then it's UCF. It's speaking to me.
UCF is speaking to you?
One. Yeah.
Captain?
Yeah, why not?
Wow. It is Iowa State. The Cyclones finally here. Welcome to the party.
I'm going to throw something.
Maybe you'll get one. The last one you should get.
I got Baylor.
You did get Baylor. You did.
I've always got Baylor.
You've always got the Baylor Bears. Yeah, Iowa State at number 55, which again is interesting. I feel like that's still pretty high given the fact that they did lose a lot of talent offensively with those 2 wide receivers. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Cyclones bring back this season. At number 56 in the country, literally 1 spot behind Iowa State.
Got to be Kansas State.
Captain?
Yeah, Kansas State.
It's Kansas State.
I was saying they killed their entire roster.
It's Kansas State at number 56 in the country.
I knew it. I always knew it.
In terms of returning production.
That Kansas State was 56th in the country.
Okay, now I'm going to just kind of spit these ones out at you. Okay, you've already failed the test, and you've got Kansas State here. Is that fair at this point in the game?
Yeah, Kansas State has to be next.
At number 76, 20 spots behind Kansas State, is Kansas.
Wow.
Jalen Daniels and company falling pretty far down this list. Colorado at number 89 nationally. Obviously losing Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter Hurts. West Virginia, number 98 in the country. Expect a bad year from West Virginia in all honesty.
The rich Rod way.
I'm interested to see what that looks like. Oklahoma State, number 104.
Good, because they shouldn't have brought anybody back.
There's 134 FBS teams, so keep this in mind. These are some of the worst teams in terms of returning production. And to bring the list home, at number 106, the Knights, UCF, losing a lot of talent, and they're dead last in the Big 12 in terms of returning production.
Kansas State has to be next.
You're right. Kansas State is actually just 1 through 16.
Yeah, actually, the most interesting team is Oklahoma State, considering that they probably didn't want to return anybody from last season.
So it's just impressive that they brought anybody back?
I think it's the right choice. Just clear house. Get your geriatric offensive lineman out there.
Had a lot of old guys.
Get your geriatric offensive lineman out of there.
Get
your geriatric quarterback out of there. Get your geriatric head coach out of there.
Ollie Gordon, or not Ollie.
Ollie Gordon's gone,
thinking
right?
of Gundy. I mixed up Ollie Gordon and Gundy for a second.
Gundy?
Yeah, Ollie Gundy goes crazy. Mike Gordon
had made the Pro Bowl 3 times for the Bengals.
What position? Sounds like a tight end.
Yeah. Mike Gordon was a sneaky good wide receiver in the early 2000s.
Sneaky good?
Yeah, sneaky good. Yeah.
He's sneaky athletic.
First in the gym, last out kind of guy.
Yeah, always.
And then Ollie Gundy.
Ollie Gundy is
the villain in a Willy Wonka movie. No, he's a villain in the Willy Wonka movie. Oi, it's Ollie Gundy.
Oh, he's Australian, huh?
Oi.
Wow, that's...
Ollie Gundy is an Australian billionaire.
Well, how did he make his millions? Or his billions?
Selling breathalyzers.
Breathalyzers, dear God. Oh, boy. Look, we've done Arizona State's returning production. We've talked about the Big 12. Let's talk about college football in general for a second, how each of the major Power 4 conferences stack up. I'm going to give them to you all, but any early guesses for which conference returns the most production? Out of guessing?
Kansas State has to be next.
Kansas State's its own conference.
Yeah.
At this point, they're independent.
The conference of the Kansas
They're
State
independent.
Wildcats.
So we'll go from bottom to top here, okay? The Big 10 is returning the least amount of production at 56.2% as a conference. So a little bit more than half of the players are returning. The ACC is third, 59.1%. Obviously, a big chunk of that, I would say, is Clemson returning, I think Clemson's returning the most, actually, in the nation. The SEC, close behind at 59.3%. And then your Big 12 leads all Power 4 conferences in returning production into the 2025 college football season at 60% on the dot.
Because they had number 2, number 10,
number 11,
number 23.
Number 23. Look at you remembering
25?
numbers. No. So 23. They had 2, 4, 11, 12, 16, and 23 in the top 25. At all surprising kind of how these conferences stack up in returning production? Would you expect the Big 10 to be dead last year?
No. Well, when you have somebody like Oregon who lost so many players.
Ohio State.
A lot of that is going to be, NFL production. Yeah. It's the name of the game. And it's not like, the Big 12 is returning like 70 and they're returning 50. The difference between first and last is 3.8%. So I wouldn't say it's too surprising. I'd be surprised if anybody was lower. I guess it's a pretty big drop. Like the Big 10 is pretty significantly lower than everybody else. 59.1, 59.3, and 60% for the other 3. So these numbers don't move me.
They don't move you at all?
No.
I am interested in a little bit surprised that the Big 12 does lead it at this point. just because of all the conversations about where the Big 12 falls nationally within these Power 4 conferences. I think, again, a lot of it has to do with the fact that if you go have a great season in the Big 10 or the SEC, you're going to the NFL, right?
Yeah.
There is no, like, if Sam Leavitt did what he did this past year, but did it at Ohio State, we're talking about him probably going to the league, as opposed to kind of sitting back. Well, I guess in theory, he has to come back for one final season, because you do have to be removed from college football or high school football for a certain amount of years before you can actually declare for the NFL draft. So I guess there's no point where Sam Leavitt would have gone to the NFL draft at this point. But if you do have a Big 12, a good season in the Big 10, or there are other opportunities, like if you're a depth guy at Ohio State or Oregon or Michigan, or Penn State, right? There are other marquee opportunities at some of these other conferences, like a Big 12 or an SEC or an ACC, to go start right away. And I think the same thing can be said about the SEC. But that's why this is a little confusing to me, is that the SEC is second behind the Big 12 and the Big 10 is dead last in this conversation. It really is. I love looking at these numbers and kind of seeing.
Very clearly.
I like numbers, man. I'm a big numbies guy. Dr. Number.
Dr. Number.
Yeah, my favorite.
Not numbers, Dr.
My
Number.
favorite, what's it called? Sesame Street character was the Count.
The Count.
Yeah.
1,
Yeah. Ha, 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 ha.
2, 3.
Wow, that was
Really bad.
We're clipping that, and anytime there's a field goal that goes in,
1,
that's what
2,
we're gonna rock from now on.
3.
Goodness gracious, guys! Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. Share it in the chat, saying the top schools in the Big Ten just reload. Though they do reload, but I think in today's era of college sports, I think it is imperative, especially in college football, to really meet that balance of not only adding in the portal and retaining guys that were a part of success the year prior. That's why I think Arizona State's numbers are so unique, because they went to the college football playoff and guys that could have maybe got paid more money opted to come back. And then you went and got other productive players. You got a guy like a Kanye Udo, who was a 1,000-yard, 10-plus touchdown guy at Army, and you added him to the roster.
Yeah.
You got a guy that you could see, potential with a Jaron Hamilton in a chance over at Clemson. Or you go get a guy from the now Mountain West at Fresno State, and you go get Jalen Moss, right?
Yeah.
So you're pulling productive players, guys with potential, while returning on defense 10 of 11 starters, a bunch of depth guys offensively. Yeah, it's remarkable to say the least what these numbers mean.
You just got to juggle. You got to juggle returning players, getting other players in the transfer portal, and high school recruiting.
It's a lot to juggle.
And don't clip this, but in a very complimentary way, we're the freaking clown show, bro. We know how to juggle.
We're the clown show.
We know how to juggle. Hey, Arizona State knows how to juggle. Okay, professional clowns.
In a good way?
Yeah, the only context that it's acceptable to say that Arizona State University football are professional clowns is the fact that you always have to juggle these different responsibilities, and they do it really well.
This is my circus, and these are my monkeys. That's what we're talking
absolutely.
about at Arizona State.
And I'm juggling these chainsaws.
Oh, my goodness. Captain Redbeard, can you juggle?
Cold soup cans.
Yep.
You can juggle, like legit?
No, I can't.
How about it? I didn't know where you're going. I was like, I could see you being able to juggle for sure.
That would
I
be
can
so
on my
elite.
feet with a soccer ball, but
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We should pick a skill. Oh, by the way, we might have decided on a date for the 24
For
hour
our wedding
stream.
or what?
Yeah. Well, unless you're planning on getting married during a 24-hour
stream. Do we want to tell them, or do we want to drop a save the date?
Yeah. We'll drop a save the date. But
well, I hope you know, and everybody that's listening, first off, I went down. I need to get back up here. We are so taking a cheesy photo, like a wedding photo for the three of us, and putting it like a save the date 24-hour stream on a graphic. We are 100%.
Should we dress up?
I think we should.
Okay.
I think we should all wear suits.
Along with that, I think that we should pick a skill that we have to learn by the end of it that we can't do. Yeah, juggling or something like that. Something. I don't know what a handstand. We need to pick a skill for us to collectively learn over the course of 24 hours.
Can I relearn a skill? Is that a question?
Well, what's the skill?
I used to play the guitar, but I haven't played it in a very long time.
I don't think anything would drive me more crazy than 24 hours. So just I swear I'm gonna get it this time.
It's 4 a.m.
Stop playing the guitar.
Hey, it could be fun. That's all I'm saying.
Could be.
Okay, that could be a lot of fun. Sharon saying, I was about to be not at all surprised by Captain Redbeard juggling. I think Captain Redbeard has a number of skills, but unfortunately juggling is not one of them. Maybe you pick up juggling on the 24-hour stream?
maybe we should do handstand push-ups.
Who do you think could do the most handstand push-ups?
The most handstand push-ups?
Are we talking like handstand, like your feet are up against the wall?
Yeah,
or, okay.
your feet are up against the wall.
You're not just holding the handstand.
I've never seen anyone do that.
Can you do it?
On the wall,
I've seen people do handstand push-ups.
Well, that's how we're doing it. We're not doing it like just...
I've seen people do it without the wall.
Wow, that's
I'm
impressive.
not doing it without the wall.
I didn't say I did it without the wall.
Who can do the most out of the three of us?
Yeah, if it's against the wall, I think it might be you.
I think just because I weigh less.
Yeah, I think I'd be in last if it's against the wall. If it's who can hold a handstand the longest without a wall, I'm mopping you two up.
Yeah, I am not.
Mopping.
I'm not doing well.
I'll give you a good run.
Yeah,
we're gonna have
Captain
some fun.
Handstand.
We're gonna have a lot of fun. We're working on making this one hell of a stream for
Sharon
everybody.
says Captain Redbeard wins that. I mean, if it's a pure weight, like who's moving the most weight, I think Redbeard might have that.
Yeah, I think Redbeard has a very good chance to win that 100%. Always want to let you guys know that the party does continue over at gophnx.com. That is going to do it for today's episode, though, of the PHNX Sun Devil Show. We appreciate everybody taking time out of their Monday, whether you're watching live after the fact or listening on audio. Make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button on your way out. And if you made it all the way here on audio and you haven't dropped a 5-star review yet, I'm just curious, what the heck are you doing? Help us out. And if you really do enjoy the content, which I hope all of you do, give us a follow at PHNX_Sun Devils on social. You can follow me at Anthony_Totri. You could follow Senor Rubis here, back from his 1-game suspension.
Again, if I miss another show this week, I was kidnapped.
At Erik Ruby. You can follow the captain of this lovely ship, Captain Coattails, over at K Coop Sports. But in the meantime, guys, go Devils and peace.
We all silly like the mayor.